for a broadcast and streaming service, it's always all about the audience. When we get pitched a program, we're not thinking about how beautiful that program is going to be. We're trying to, in our minds, find out who's this aimed at? What part of my audience is this aimed at? We get 1.5 million people looking at our service, our streaming platforms every week. Well, that's a big audience, for a small province of about 5 million people. So we're always thinking about the audience. And that's what I think researchers, when they're considering getting involved with documentary, is to be clear about your expectations. Are you looking to be popular? Are you looking to have impact? Is it a popular mainstream audience, or is it a niche audience? And are you speaking to the converted who already agree with you? Or are you speaking to people that might be persuadable? We've been running climate change documentaries I went back to the records, and I know it's been at least 25 years, when, climate change was considered really out there. So we've been running for 25 years, and even now we're committed to it, obviously. But right now we're like, okay, but are we speaking to the converted? Am I already telling the people, does our audience belong to the same church? In which case it's going to be the same number of people at the beginning and at the end. And so I pushed and said, look, climate change is a great example where you're not thinking about the audience. Whoever came up with climate change, the term, from global warming, I'm thinking that person should give their head a shake. They never thought about the audience. And it's global warming. So we're trying to do documentaries that build on the idea of saying, look, this climate change, better known as global warming, it's about pollution of the environment. We're destroying everything. So I said, let's not do global warming. There's lots of stuff in other channels. Let's try to focus on plastic in the oceans, contamination. Let's try to build on it, because we've done climate change for 25 years. I think the people that are watching us are not there denying it. We're trying to say, look, that's important, but it's only one part of a bigger issue. So that's a case of thinking about the audience. So when people come to us and go, hey, I've got a climate change documentary, well, is it any different than what I've been doing for 25 years? Who do you want to talk to? Someone that already agrees with you? Or do you want to talk to someone who says, well, how come when it gets really cold in the wintertime, it's about weather, but if it gets really hot in the summertime, it's about climate change? So, there's a case where filmmakers are, they use, we know that weather and climate change are not the same thing. But when looking for visuals, if we have some catastrophic weather, it's like, oh my goodness, look, the weather's really catastrophic. So they show all the same footage from the last 10 years. Volcanoes, storms in Florida, and then when it's sub-zero, abnormally cold winter, no, it's not about weather, right? So, you're constantly working with filmmakers not to get away from thinking about their work and thinking about how that connects to the audience. Hey, our audience already, of course they've known climate change is happening. That's not what they're concerned about. They're concerned about how do you deal with something as useful as a plastic bag. It's one of the reasons why we haven't solved it. Why? Because it's really, really useful. Try taking Chinese takeout food in a paper box, and so we're looking like, okay, how do we move it along about plastic, regulating it, trying to stop dumping in the oceans, and how can we build on that? And so I think for researchers, it's always about for us, it's always about the audience. Who do you want to speak to? What do you want to tell them? And so that's, for me, that's the advice.